den? Är den på?
Good morning. Please take a seat so we can get started. How's the dinner? Any party afterwards? I don't know. You look quite, I don't know, fresh, like you slept all night. Welcome back to the second day of the final conference for the project Företagsamma Västra Hisingen. If you've forgotten, we have a hashtag. We actually do. So it's FVH. So you can tweet and Instagram and Facebook on that hashtag, and we can gather all questions. Before we get started, I just would like you to search someone that you haven't talked with, either in the table next to you or wherever. So just approach someone and just present yourself that you haven't talked to, someone you haven't talked to, and then just share what was your key insight yesterday. What was your, I don't know, the sweetest thing about yesterday, the highlight that you take away from yesterday. So do that for a couple of minutes and then we'll just popcorn and listen around. Go ahead. So, let's do a round of popcorn. So for our new guest, we have a way of doing sharings that's called popcorn. So whenever you feel hot, you pop. So there's no, you have to, you know, raise your hand. So whenever you want to share something, you can just share it. So who would like to pop? What was your highlight, your key insight from yesterday? Any poppers? I have all day, so I'm not going anywhere.
Well, actually, I wasn't here
colleagues, I'm very impressed by Swedish doors. They're very strong and sturdy. In Britain, I think our doors aren't so strong. So one of the things I've learned about Sweden is fantastic doors.
Thank you for sharing that, Jim. Bingo. Any more popcorns? What would you like to share from your... Yeah.
We were not here yesterday either.
Welcome.
But what we did is we met incubator and Chalmers Innovation, and we learned that we just have about the same metrics, I would say. We found out we do the same amount, kind of per person, the same amount of businesses that we support. We use similar, we've had the same learnings, we have similar metrics, how do they develop, which ones really develop very well, etc. Follow-on funding is about similar. So we found out that even in Sweden and Austria, we compare very well.
Welcome for our Austrian friends from Vienna. Welcome. Thank you. Any more popcorns? Who would like to share their insight or key highlight from yesterday? Yes? Yeah?
We were speaking about the flexible approach of the project to be able to adapt to the current circumstances, what happens in society, and the flexible approach. And also that nothing seems impossible. Everybody is very proactive and very fond of making such a good project as possible.
Thank you. Who else would like to pop? Yes?
I learned, not the first time perhaps, but because I've met with our researchers a lot of times. But this was my first time when I kind of realized, well, I think that they think that we did a good job. And it was a good moment because I've never listened in that way to what they were saying, because usually when they say things, I try to figure out the answer to tell them that they misunderstood.
Thank you. Torbjörn looks like a nice researcher. So one of my key highlights yesterday was, except for listening to all the beautiful stories, and I agree as well with the flexibility in the mind and in the attitude towards the project. But one of my highlights was when the cookbook team was here yesterday. Did you meet them? And the guy came out and he was like, "You have to go in and look at our cookbook." And everyone was around their monter. So I was very inspired of that, and just giving someone something to do and helping them to explore their potential. That was moving. Yeah. We have a couple of principles for this day as well. We presented them yesterday, so we're just going through them today as well. So remember that you're here for a reason, so everyone has something to contribute. Either it's a question or a thought or an insight or a sharing. So everyone in here has something to contribute with. Remind yourself of that and remind other people of that. And you can do that by high-fiving when someone does something good. Or you can just remind yourself by doing I did something, I shared something, I helped someone. Talking about help, it's nice to ask for help. And we have started to fill, this is our help wall, I would like to have help with. So I will just remind you, if you put a note up here, please add your email so we know who to contact. So that's the wall. If you would like to have help with something, either it's a contact or grow your business or whatever, just put a note up there and people will have the opportunity to help you. Secondly, listen to understand, not to answer. I think we all did that very well yesterday, to really listen. What is it that we're talking about, like behind the words? What is it that we're really saying? Assume that everyone has a good intention. That will come especially today when you have the opportunity as well. Prepare questions for our speakers and our presentators. So assume that everyone that has a question or challenges does that from a good intention. Do we agree on that? Yes. Yes. And have fun. That's also, we can add that as well. Our next presentator, Anna Holmberg, So I try to do that in English. I don't know why. Anna Holmberg is a lawyer, and she also project managed the Institute of Innovation and Social Change at the University of Gothenburg. She's not only very smart, she's also very dedicated in helping the clients, the entrepreneurs, with legal advice. So she will share free legal advice for increased integration. Welcome up, Mrs. Anna Holmberg.
Se om det här funkar. Tack. High five. Does this work? Okay, awesome. I'm going to flip on. Intercultural Gothenburg, the pilot project of free legal counseling in Biskopsgården. But first, before I get started, I feel like we're in a very personal, safe, and open environment. So I'm going to go ahead and do something personal, and you'll have to excuse me. But my grandmother passed away a couple of days ago, and I just want to say that this one is for her. Det här är till dig, mormor. Okay. We had 64 clients. We did 39 contractual agreement drafts. Kontraktsskrivningar. We did 19 legal examinations. Rättsutredningar. We did 15 examination of agreements. Avtalsgranskningar in Swedish. Boom. Boom. Okay, let's walk it through. My name is Anna Holmberg, and I am a project manager at the Institute of Innovation and Social Change. I'm also a faculty member of Sahlgrenska's School of Innovation and Entrepreneurship and Chalmers School of Entrepreneurship. So I rule our students there. I'm also, or was, the operational manager and mentor for the free legal counseling at Företagsamma Västra Hisingen. And I also have my student colleagues with me, Mikael Bernardini and Johan Winberg. And I'm also a lawyer. Ooh, everyone thinks now. My God, are we going to have to listen to a lawyer talk for 20 minutes? Well, I can tell you that usually we charge thousands for that. So you get this one for free. So you should consider that a bonus. The project background was that you have something called the law clinic concept. It's quite well known abroad, not so well known in Sweden, but it has been under discussion at the Department of Law for almost 2 decades. And the law clinic concept is based on legal aid and an access to justice movement that started in the States in the 60s and 70s, where legal aid offices kept popping up to help citizens with different legal issues, pro bono and free of charge. The Institute and the project Intercultural Gothenburg is a university-wide institute at the University of Gothenburg, and we work with social change and social challenges. And therefore, this fitted very well in. And all of a sudden, this discussion that had been going on at the Department of Law for many, many years could be picked up by the Institute. We're also funded by the European Regional Development Fund. And we decided to use this as a tool for diagnosis. And what does that mean then? Well, if you use a law clinic in research, it's a very good way to find out what kind of social challenges we have in society. It's a very good way to research integration because you get to see the actual reality behind the research, and you get a case-based research that's very effective. And not to forget, the university has the third task of interaction, samverkan. And that's our constant challenge, to figure out how that's going to be done in the best way. And this was definitely a very good way for interaction. We had competence in business law, because we belong to the Department of Law at Handelshögskolan, the School of Business and Law at Gothenburg University. So we felt naturally that that was our sort of main focus. And I'm going to come back to why business law in relation to integration is especially interesting. Because I bet that many of you are now thinking, what? Business law? That's for middle-aged white men trying to make money. But no. So we applied for funds from Tillväxtverket as well, in addition to our own funds. And we came in contact with Företagsamma Västra Hisingen. And thank God we did. This is a very nice picture. It's a dark picture, but it was a sunny day. But we're having cake. Good times. And the support from Företagsamma in our quest has been essential. We couldn't have done it without you guys. We've had office space and administrative services. We've had meeting rooms, booking of meetings, and above all, marketing. Helene, thank you. So then, business law and integration, really. Well, there really is no free, organized legal counseling in this area, in the area of business law. And then you go, well, what about official authorities? What about myndigheter, the Swedish myndighetskultur? Well, yes, to some extent, that's effective. You can call Skatteverket, the tax authorities, and they have to answer your question. You can call Bolagsverket, the registration company office, and they will also answer some questions. But you have a lot of specific issues that really can't be solved by any official authority. So what about business lawyers and law firms then? Well, let me take a pause to laugh. Because, yeah, they're wonderful and they do a lot of good things. But to be honest, we really don't have a pro bono tradition in Sweden. Mostly because we're relying on the myndighetskultur, the official authority culture. And it's just not really the way of doing things. Many law firms claim that they do pro bono work, and some of them do to some extent, but it's very, very limited, and not at all with business law focus in that sense. We have a legal system of legal complexity. The Swedish system is quite bureaucratic, even if we don't want to admit so. And we have a legal culture that is very different from many other parts of the world, naturally. Even from our closest neighboring countries, our legal culture can be quite different. The legal system, as I said, is very complex, and it's quite massive, and it's hard to orientate yourself in that. We, again, have the official authority culture that is also highly affected by the legal system. Contacts are highly important within the Swedish legal system because you're reliant on talking to other people and asking things and finding out and using networks. And lawyers are per se bad at explaining because we make money from being bad at explaining. Because if we are bad at explaining law, we make ourselves necessary. And we protect a system where we become essential. And very few lawyers would like to admit to that, but if you ask the big law firms, they would lie if they said that they wasn't aware of this, because this is what we do to a very large extent. From an integration perspective, the immigrants that come to Sweden, they often have quite an entrepreneurial background. The Somalian society, for example, is much more entrepreneurial and has a much more entrepreneurial business setting than we perhaps do in Sweden. It can sometimes be very difficult to get hired if you come here as an immigrant. You have skills and abilities and you provide goods and services that don't exist here. For example, food or cooking that's specific for your culture, or language skills. And for us, it is very clear that viable and stable companies provide job opportunities. That seems totally obvious, right? And also, they provide job opportunities locally. If you have viable and stable companies in a local community, you will hire people in your local community because that's your network, naturally. And if we want a vivid and self-confident city district, then this is the way to go about. People have to be able to support themselves. And they have to be able to build a society and a part of the society that fulfills the needs of the population. Okay, so the project then. 2 stages. We went for fall and we went for spring. We were at the center 2 days a week, Wednesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays were drop-in and Thursdays were booked appointments, just to try and make a good mix and a good dynamics in how people could come and visit us. During the fall, we had 7 actually. There are only 6 here. They look so sad. I don't know why. They were really happy. I swear to God. But we had 6 and 7 students from a master's program in entrepreneurship and venture creation from Sahlgrenska School of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. They were all lawyers. And they also had Emil Winkler as their mentor the first session before I took over. And Emil is known as our rock and roll lawyer. He does a lot of music law as well. During spring, we were just the 3 of us. I took over as mentor in the end of fall. And we hired Johan and Mikael part-time, half-time actually, while they were writing their master theses. And we paid them a salary, because during the fall the guys had done pro bono work, which was effective and good. But it's always a good motivational aspect with a salary. Any good business lawyer knows that. We had seminars with the faculty from the Department of Law. They did seminars on company forms. They did seminars on intellectual property law, where we engaged many of the people at the Företagsamma Västra Hisingen. The clients, they found us through the other activities and the office at Företagsamma Västra Hisingen. But they also found us through the marketing channels. They were very effective, I can tell you, Julian. So you should be happy. Because they found us at buses, they found us at trams, where they could see these signs that were up. So those were quite effective. But also the traditional word of mouth. Always good. Clients who send clients, but also the center that Business Region has in Angered. The business advisors there also sent us clients. About half of our clients came from Hisingen, and about 1/3 of them became returning clients who actually came back with several errands. We took a quite broad grip on the concept of counseling. The perception was that we were going to offer guidance, and we were going to be a legal bollplank, for our clients, where we could sit down and discuss and talk about things. In reality, however, we did this, and definitely this, a lot of this, and we definitely did this, and we felt like this sometimes, and many times we felt like this as well. We did actual contracts. We wrote things. We found clauses that were essential. We researched everything from top to bottom. And we wrote quite complex legal agreements. And I think that a majority of my colleagues at the Department of Law would be quite uneased by me saying this. Because we have liability, of course, and we did a contract with them saying that we will not take responsibility for the advice we're giving, due to the fact that we're representing the university, and the university can't be held liable for this. But we essentially felt that, come on, we can't just sit here and tell them, you need a shareholders agreement. Well, what the frickin' is that? What does that even look like? Where can I find one? Well, we have one. You can use that. You can put stuff in there yourself. Well, how do I do that? Well, you do it like this and this and this. I'm just going to type a bit. Let me type it. Let me type it. Because eventually you end up in a situation where it feels almost immoral to just give them some sort of template agreement and say, good luck, have fun. So we started writing things, and we started doing things for real. And I'm not sure that that was the intended way of doing it, but my God, we didn't care. We just did. And I'm very happy that we did. And part of that is also, we were quite left alone out in Biskopsgården. We had our good colleagues at Företagsamma Västra Hisingen, but the Department of Law, well, they kept checking in, talking to us. But essentially, they shipped me off and said, good luck, have fun, and try not to mess things up, and do this very good, because we're going to do a lot of things with this, and this is very important. But my background is, I had just graduated, but I had done a lot of legal counseling before. I'd worked at a lot of law firms. But still, this was deep waters for me. And we realized together, me and Johan and Mikael, that if we're going to do this, it has to be thorough work, and we have to work our asses off to make sure that this is what it's supposed to be. Okay, I'm going to walk you through some of our cases just quickly to make you understand what it is, what type of cases we had. Because I also got questions yesterday on what type of cases that the business center usually get, and this is a representative view of that. The first case, an Iranian software developer that had their office at Företagsamma. They did software development in Romania and needed advice on company form and consultancy services. And we provided them with an employment agreement and a consultancy agreement. And now you're all thinking, what? Software developers? What? In Biskopsgården at Företagsamma Västra Hisingen? But you're in for a surprise, because these are the type of clients that we got, much more than the people at the local grocery shop, who we thought initially would be our clients. We had a Chinese software developer, and she needed advice on her trademark and her control position in relation to what kind of jobs she gives away to her customers and what type of software code that she could use again and that she could control. And we gave her a non-disclosure agreement and a consultancy and service agreement. We had a contractor who was specialized in kitchens. He was awesome. And he needed advice on liability, because he thought that if I hire subcontractors, entreprenörer, I will be 100% reliable for what it is that they do. And he had had a subcontractor who had destroyed something in someone's kitchen, and he paid for that fully. And we had to explain to him that, God, no. You should not have to do that. This can be regulated in an agreement. And we also did work planning with him, because one of his issues was that often some of the clients want to change things the last minute. And then he has to explain to them, well, it's going to take much longer time now, and it's going to cost much more. And then they start arguing. So we just wrote him a terms agreement and a work planning agreement that said, this is the conditions. And if you change things, it's going to cost you time and money. So that became much easier for him to do his job, essentially. We had a woman with a very complex divorce and a protected identity. And her ex-husband had started a company in their name. And she needed an exit from that company. But there was no possible way of her having contact with her ex-husband. So we had to figure out how to do that in contact with Bolagsverket, Skatteverket, and Tingsrätten, the courts in Sweden. We called 1,000 people to research this, and they had never heard of this issue before, which also seems surprising to me. We also established contact with her with the organization called Terrafem, who help women in these exposed situations, often in domestic violence situations. They are very, very good at what they do. We also assisted in her discussions on her living situation together with the municipality that she came from, trying to switch her apartment, trying to get her kids to a proper living environment from the place they lived in, from their local school. So that actually became something that we worked quite a lot with, and we extended it beyond business law because we felt that she had little power on her side. The fifth case is a young entrepreneur with an online shop, and he was actually from Biskopsgården, Ahmad, and he needed advice on his business model, but also his purchasing conditions, because he felt like, well, I'm doing complex online trading here. What can I really do? So we helped him answer that, and we also helped him with a partner agreement, and also public procurement, because he had actually given a large bid to one of the kommuner, the municipalities, to sell his services to them. So that was also very exciting. The most common issues have been discussions on company form. What kind of company form to use? Public limited company, a private company, what are you going to do? Also, relations of different sorts, partner agreements, but also shareholders agreements, and also family relations. If I have this business and if I want to give it to one of my sons, how am I going to do with the rest of my sons? What are they going to get instead? And so on. And that's also something that's very closely tied to this type of business law. Liability issues. What am I liable for? What do I have to take responsibility for if I put a product out on a market? And also non-disclosure. What can I tell people? How can I hinder people from talking about what it is I do in my business? So we did a lot of non-disclosure agreements. And again, business law and integration. Really? Let's look at this then. I call this the rings on the water. Ringar på vattnet. Choosing the wrong company form. is in the middle section. That can actually lead to unexpected liability. You can become liable for things that you had no idea that you were liable for. You can end up in what we call the debt trap, where you owe a lot of people a lot of money, and where they essentially, in the end, collect your house where your children live, or the car which you travel to work with, or your wife's car, or your husband's summer cottage. You can get a lot of things seized by the state if you mess this up, and that's not good. You could enter into personal bankruptcy, and that's a hell that no one wants to walk through, because you lose a lot of personal freedom in a personal bankruptcy as well. And essentially, and I have to point this out especially, in many cases you have ruined partner relations, and you have ruined family relations, and you end up in a situation where you are close to a broken person in some cases. So the social aspects of business law can be huge. And I think that we sometimes neglect that. It's easy to neglect that when we're talking about white, middle-aged men with a lot of income, but it's much harder to neglect that when we're talking about small businesses in especially exposed areas. But also, I gotta give you a tip. The blame the lawyer strategy. This is a good tip. You should all write this down. The blame the lawyer strategy is very, very effective. It is a strategy where you get to blame your lawyer for anything. So when you have family relations that are about to get ruined, or when you have partner relations that are very estranged from a situation, you blame the lawyer. I'm sorry, I totally trust you. I know that this will not become an issue, but I have this freaking lawyer and she keeps bugging me and she is obnoxious. And if I don't do this, she's gonna hunt me down the street and she's gonna make my life miserable. So please just do this for me so I get her off my back. I tell my clients to say that all the time. Blame me for anything. I am a free scapegoat. And those don't come along that often. You should always use the lawyer as a scapegoat. So use that. Okay, our accomplishments. We strongly feel that we created an effective pedagogy for increasing awareness and understanding of the legal system. Even if we don't solve every specific issue that they come with, or even if they have issues in the future that we can't help them with, they have an increased understanding and perception of how the legal system works. We decreased their fears and unnecessary concerns and worries that they had. And we were law and business mythbusters. No, 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 no. We can write that in a contract. You do not have to pay for that. No, 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 no. You should not write that to Skatteverket. No, God, no. We help them with these perceptions of what law means and the perception of what that entails. And I think that that has been very effective. Also, we made law more accessible. We made it easier for people to understand and use. We integrated the lawyer. We put the lawyers out in Biskopsgården. Now, how many lawyers do you see in Biskopsgården, really? But we were out there every week talking to them, buying stuff in their stores, talking about law whenever we could. We talked to a lot of the kids that we found out there. And we tried to show them that we can change the image of the lawyer. The lawyer is not necessarily that white middle-aged man. All white middle-aged men in here, we love you, but you know who you are. But lawyers can be different as well. They can be this. They can eat ice cream in the square, and they can be put in tiny cars and be bullied around. And I think that's very important for them to see that they are lawyers of a different sort. But also, and more importantly for us, we had a substantial entrepreneurial learning. Both for me as a mentor to assist these guys and help them and mentor them, and for Johan and Mikael, for our other students, this has been a huge entrepreneurial learning. How do you offer legal advice in this setting? And also integration, naturally, because we were out in Biskopsgården. We talked to people that we have never talked to before, and we integrated the law in that. We had a massive responsibility. It's hard to call it anything but massive. But we also had exceptional team building. Exceptional team building. We had a lot of fun. Not only the three of us and the students in the fall, but definitely together with Företagsamma Västra Hisingen. We close to miss you guys every week. We're like, it's Thursday, should we just go out and have lunch? Which has also been very important. The takings. Okay, let's go through some fast final takings. The fact that we have had many clients is an evidence that you need free business law counseling. Otherwise, we would never have had 64 clients. We are certain that a majority of these companies would have later, rather than sooner perhaps, succumbed to different circumstances. And they would have gone out of business if we hadn't helped them with the issues that they came to us with. And we can talk the talk all we want within academia and within the Department of Law, but in the end, we need to walk the walk. And that's what we did. In the future, we have a master's course at the law school that sprung out of this in practical human law and welfare law, which is actually up and running since Monday, and we're super excited. And we've received a lot of media and press from this, so it's going to be good. And we're creating a social incubator where the students at the Sahlgrenska School of Innovation and Entrepreneurship and also Chalmers School of Entrepreneurship are going to work with these issues. And we're doing our first state project in January to March at Företagsamma Västra Hisingen. Julia, be prepared.
Thank you. A big round of applause. We have to
well, I
let
have to
Jim
thank
come
us as
out.
well.
Thank you very much, Anna. Skitbra jobbat. Thank you. Amina sitter där borta. So we have to let up Jim. So if you have any questions for Anna, you'll have a break in like 30-45 minutes. So just grab her, and if you want legal advice, you can probably get it as well.
We're here.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you for your job.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you.
All right.
Wow, good start on the morning. So our next presenter, when I talked to him on the phone, he was super excited from coming all the way from Liverpool. He also told me that his mom dated someone from the Beatles, so maybe he can tell you something about that later on.
It's all true.
It's true. So Jim Crook created the business support agency Blue Orchid 13 years ago with a belief that entrepreneurs and small businesses wanted practical advice from people who had themselves run their company. Started out himself and now has 100 employees around in UK. So we'll listen to business startup support in Great Britain with Mr. Jim Crook from Blue Orchid. Welcome up and welcome to Gothenburg.
Thank you.
Big round of applause.
It is actually a true story. My mother actually went out with Paul McCartney in the 1960s, and he would always dress in black, and my grandfather, my mother's father, said get rid of him, he's going nowhere, so she had to dump Paul McCartney. The thing also is that they were in Hamburg and they would draw pictures of themselves playing in Hamburg. Do we have those letters? Do we have those drawings? No. But they got lost years ago, otherwise I wouldn't be here, I'd be a retired wealthy man. I've got 3 presentations for today, and the first one I wasn't planning on using, but really Daniela asked could I present it. It's all about the wonderful world of European Regional Development Fund and some of the problems and tribulations we have with that. I'd like to just use a very simple example of how we claim ERDF and how you claim payments. So if you were to try and claim some money for photocopying or for pieces of paper, the steps are as follows. First of all, put your paper in the photocopier. Very good. Second step, refill the photocopier with toner. And this is where ERDF starts coming in. You then have to buy a counter, and there's a reason for this, because only the ERDF copies that you're using you can claim for. So we get our counter. Next step, you have to wait a month. Let the copier work for a month. And guess what happens then? We find the bills. The leasing bill, there's one. The copier toner bill, there's another. The bill for the paper. And now don't forget your counter again. We have to read the counter. Now in the world of ERDF, we now have to calculate how much of our money we can claim back from our paper. So we have to put it in our claim sheet. Our project is a large project, it's about 20 million euro. So in terms of the paperwork I have to manage, I'm currently up to 6,656 rows of transactions that I'm measuring, and probably an equal number of staffing. So this is the burden we have to deal with working with European money. Then I have to check that my numbers are right. And again, if you look, I'm checking that everything is all wonderful here, and it is. Then I have to recalculate my Excel. And in my world, I have 12,000 rows of claim data to calculate. I have 145 staff timesheets I have to calculate. This is just a claim for my photocopier paper, by the way. I have to multiply by the duration of the project, multiply by my 7 delivery locations, multiply by the 3 ERDF projects that I'm running, and then I have to calculate tax, holiday, sickness. I don't know if other people are having the same problem when they're dealing with ERDF and the issues of defrayment. I have to deduct tax, student loans, childcare, a tax, another tax, and one more tax. In total, I have over 1.8 million calculations just to recover the costs of my photocopier paper. And then at the very end, I have to present the claim to ERDF for payment. But beware, claims have to be precise in the world of ERDF. Precise to the penny? Well, a penny, how much is that worth? Well, a penny, less than a euro cent. Nope. Perhaps precise to the 1/10 of 1 penny. No, my claims officer won't allow me to claim to 1/10 of a penny. I have to claim to 1/100th of a penny. That's 4 decimal places. And that's what I'm dealing with on a £20 million euro project. I have to prove to the last 0.01 of a penny that I haven't run off with the money and stolen it. And that produces a massive burden for compliance in our organisation. And a lot of the time, people are looking at me spending money on stamps. Whether I do a good job for the client doesn't matter. I have audits for 4 days, and they are checking that I've spent the money right. Are they interested in the client? Not really. Did I do a good job? Who cares? That's the world I live in. And then at the very end, you have to share your evidence with an auditor and keep it in a good, orderly fashion. I don't know if other people are in the same boat as I am. My lessons learned, well, indeed, a robust methodology for each item of spend is essential. We have to have a range, we all become management accountants and chartered accountants, and a range of recovery methods required for every item of expenditure. And some costs, frankly, are just too small to calculate. They take weeks and weeks to calculate just for a few pennies. My advice, just really from day one, simplify and be careful on what you claim and how to claim. Well, Daniela asked me to talk about the things that go wrong. When you're dealing with a spreadsheet with 1.8 million calculations, errors do creep in. I have made some false assumptions, and I can never underestimate the level of scrutiny that I go with ERDF. I have emails that go on for pages and pages over recovery rates. It's a lot of work to be done there. One thing we have to do is framework with procurement. Very quickly, I would avoid framework agreements. That will just send you to hell, it really will. Avoid overdue thresholds. That will also send you to hell. And remember to procure the little things. I have to procure lots of little things because those costs add up quite quickly. I said, don't forget the little things. We spend €40,000 a year on sandwiches, or butties as we call them in England. I have to procure the butties. That means I've had to write a tender, and in my tender I've described, please give me a price for brown bread, cheese, ham, chicken. And I'm having to present this information to auditors to show that I procured my butties correctly. €40,000. Again, little things. I spend €70,000 on stationery. Again, I have to procure every last pen, every last piece of paper. That's the world I'm dealing with. Try not to claim taxis, oh no. Garden plants, potted plants and booze is definitely a no-no for Europe. And coffee, they just reject all my applications for coffee. So I think you're stuffed here in Sweden because I know you love your coffee. One final point. You do have auditors come in. They usually come in pairs. They're usually here for a day. Be prepared. They always find something wrong when they come in to audit you. but you have to develop a set of tactics and countermeasures. You are in a battle. It is a trick that you're playing. There are tricks. Give them the minimum information. I tend to keep all my files in one room, and if they're looking for a file, I'll bring that one file in, give it to them, and when they're finished, take the file out. That's what I do. Have layers of defense. So just give them a bit, and if they want more, yes, I do have more, I do have more. Make it easy for them to do their job. If there's things I'm a bit nervous about, I try and get them to move quickly. If there's areas where I feel very comfortable, take your time. Take your time. And that's part of the tactics I have to follow. If they start to trust you, that's always good. Give them nice sweets and biscuits and coffee. They'll be happy with that. I tend to use what I call a front man. I usually use my Scottish accountant, who's a very charming man. And the reason why I use my Scottish accountant is that he knows nothing about ELDF. So when I ask him questions about ELDF, he says, just give me a moment, I will go out the room and ask Jim. And that gives me a bit of thinking time to think, what am I going to say to get myself out of trouble here? That's the tactics that I have to play. Everyone's smiling, so you must know the story that they're in. You have to know when to concede and when to fight. You really want to avoid a fight, but if you have to, you will fight. You probably lose, though. It's their job to find out, but is it your job to tell them? I don't know. I'll leave that to you. It's your choice on that one there. So that's my world of how I claim paper from ELDF, amongst other things. The presentation I actually wasn't going to use, in fact. My second presentation is talking about business startup in the UK and how that's changed over the years. And my final presentation is talking about how we're reacting to the change that's being imposed upon ourselves and how we're coping with that. So hopefully I'll be able to transfer to the new version. This is all new to me, this technology, so I might need a hand here. I noticed that Swedish keyboards have lots of spare letter A's in my mind, so I think this is the fellow. So now I'd just like to move on to, there we go. Right, I wonder if this will work. Can I give this a go? I'd like to talk about business startup in the UK. Did it work? Here we go. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. I think I'd like just to talk you through a bit of self-employment through the ages in the UK when I started my career. Around about the 1980s, the UK suffered rapid deindustrialisation. Factories closed, people lost their jobs, especially where I came from in the north of England. And in 1980, around about 7.5% of the workforce were self-employed. So a relatively small number of people were self-employed in about 1980. But with rapid industrialisation, or deindustrialisation, things started to change quite quickly. By 1995, the first mobile phone hit the UK. And within 5 years, self-employment has risen from 7.5% of the working population to 11.6%, just within 5 years. Now we're moving to 1989, fall of the Berlin Wall. Again, within 10 years, more or less, self-employment in the UK had doubled to 13.4%. And that's primarily because there weren't that many jobs around in the UK. Deindustrialised had left many thousands, millions indeed, unemployed. And so for those people, self-employment was their only job opportunity. So we saw a rapid increase of self-employment in the UK. That takes us to 1989. In 1995, a website was launched called Amazon. I'm told that you don't have Amazon, you're very lucky in Sweden yet. But you can see that times are moving on. And again, self-employment in the UK has reached 13.8% of the workforce. That's 3.5 million people now working for themselves by 1995. Now we're hitting the year 2000. Britain builds the Millennium Falcon. Well, that doesn't seem quite right. I think what Britain did, in fact, in the year 2000, we built the Millennium Dome. The UK economy was growing very quickly in the year 2000. But surprisingly, self-employment is starting to fall. That's because people could find safe jobs, good jobs, get a mortgage, get a career, plan ahead, When you're self-employed, those options like getting a mortgage, getting a loan, buying a house are much more difficult. So as the economy grew, less people became self-employed, and self-employment started to drop. Again, let's move towards where we are really getting closer to today. Around about the mid-noughties, lots of cloud technologies started to come through. These are the ones that we're actually using in our organisation. So we've got Eventbrite, which I'm sure you use, MailChimp, Skype, and so on. So this is how technology is changing. Again, in 2007, the first smartphone was released. And in 2008, everything went bam. We had the global financial meltdown in 2008. And self-employment is starting to fall again. We dropped again to 12.9%. We were up almost 14% at one point. And in 2010 in the UK, we had a new government and austerity and cuts in funding, cuts in jobs and so on. And suddenly self-employment's risen again. So again, let's move towards really closer to where we are today. So in 2012, Sweden wins Eurovision. Well done. And self-employment in the UK has now hit 4 million people, so it's rising again. So let's look at where we are today. Today, self-employment is a massive 15% of the workforce. And that's over 4.6 million people. And actually one of the reasons why UK unemployment has fallen so sharply over the last few years, because a lot of people have become self-employed. Now 4.6 million of the workforce are now self-employed. It's a massive army now from where it was, even in the 80s and so on. But is this always good news? Well, let's have a look. Let's have a look at what's going on. The salaries of a weekly self-employed person 10 years ago was €368 a week. And as we moved along, the salary has dropped significantly to €267. If the economy was doing well, people would simply have left self-employment and looked for a job. That's one of the reasons why people, why the economy is there's lots of jobs in the UK, because people want to stay in self-employment. They don't want to become unemployed. And the last person you want to do is make yourself redundant. So people are just sticking in. They're holding in there. Sorry, can you all hear me? Again, I became self-employed because I could not find a job. For the older people who are self-employed, only 12%, but most people, a quarter of the people now are self-employed, not because they want to be, but there are no other choices, no other jobs for them. So what kind of jobs are people doing? Well, traditional sectors, taxi drivers, chauffeurs, construction, plumbers, in the building industry, but more recently managers, designers, new media. A lot of those jobs now in the wealthier parts of the UK, so lots of jobs in London, the southeast of England, but not so many jobs in Northern Ireland or Wales. So self-employment is really only focused really in the wealthier areas of the UK. A little bit about ourselves, the project we run. Our project, it's a €20 million project, and we have to help something like 5,500 new businesses set up, and we're assisting 11,000 people, and we support about 2,000 young businesses. So it's a large project that we're running. We've got 106 staff delivering and 70 business advisors and a 5-person call centre. We take about 70 new inquiries for people setting up a business every day. And we run about 400 training workshops, which is why my bill for my sandwiches is so high. It's for the training workshops, not for ourselves. And we run about 16,500 one-to-one appointments every year. So quite large volumes. I'll try and play a video now. Oh, sorry, that went way too quick. For those who know the geography of the UK, this is Liverpool. Manchester City play here, and Manchester United play there. And my football team, Everton, actually we play here. So this is obviously the Irish Sea. We've got Liverpool, and we've got Manchester, and we've got nice country parks around here. Some very large urban areas. There's probably about 4 million 5 million people work in this geography here. And this is the number of starts we did last year, probably a couple of thousand. Again, they're growing and growing and growing, so we can see as the years go on, this is the volumes that we're doing. So a substantial amount here. And this is about 3 years worth of starts. There's probably about 7,000 records in this. That's the kind of scale that we're working on. Let's look at what the government's doing to help us. Sorry, the slide isn't so good. We used to get around about €3,000 to help a business set up. Today, we just get €500 to help a business set up. So we had a massive decrease in the funding to help businesses set up. Conversely, the demand for our services now has increased rapidly, where it's around about 7,500 inquiries every year for people to set up a business. Having to reduce the budget from €3,000 to €500, we're having to go from this. It had to be a Volvo. It had to be. At one point, I put a Volkswagen on, and I thought, no, no. So we have to deliver a product of this quality to something like this with €500. So I want to talk in my next presentation the challenges that we've had and how we can deliver still a quality offer. Well, if we have to cut back, less service, close the door to those that probably need help most, because the irony of when you're driven by a budget cut is that you help people who need least help. That's bizarre. You should be helping people who need most help. We've had to have a wage freeze for staff. That's common throughout the UK now. And we have to go high volume. So the volumes that we're dealing with are in the many thousands of businesses, and we have no choice. A lot of the sector is consolidated because the government are given so little money. But more important, we need a new way of thinking about startup. This is how we used to do it. You'd phone up, speak to our call centre, book an appointment, turn up to the appointment, fill in a form, do some homework, phone up again, speak to our call centre, book an appointment, go to a workshop, fill in a form, phone up, book a workshop, fill in a form. You get the message. Lots and lots, and at the end you probably open your business. And again, even once you've opened your business, ERDF requires me to collect data from you. So once again, you're having to fill in a form. And again, this is part of the bureaucracy that we're dealing with ERDF. Okay, the old model won't work, it's too slow. People do miss appointments, it's a free service. So some people do not turn up. Hey, it cost me nothing. Paper, paper, paper. There's a heavy cost on the back office. We are typing constantly into our systems all the appointments and events that we're going on. Lots of diary management, a bit old-fashioned. And advisors have too much waiting time waiting for the next appointment. We need, so we need a new way of startup. We can't really copy Amazon, and I can't pronounce this, Bokrondellen. Because we still need to meet people. We can't do it over the net. That would be silly and wrong. So we need a new model for startup. So let's begin after Jim opens the next presentation. So that's where we are. This is where we're claiming to be. If I'm running out of time, please nudge me. 7 or 8 minutes? It could be 5, no problem. Are we there? Oh, right. 5 minutes, okay. So our new model to help startups, we have to look at a lean self-service solution for our clients now. Of €500 compared to €3,000. We have to look at where we can cut waste, but not value. So I sat at my desk thinking, what am I going to do? So I wrote down my to-do list. How to deliver with just €500, how to maintain high quality, and how to reduce waste and cost. So my to-do list of fixing my problem was to do this. I needed to rethink what my customers want. They want a quick access. They want it speedily. Sometimes they need more now and less later, and sometimes less now and more later. And I have to help remove the barriers and blocks. And just enough, and I've learned a new word, lagom. Does that work? Just enough. Okay, sorry, someone's just had a text message. Sorry, I have to cancel our meeting. Right, sorry about that. I didn't mean to take my phone with me. So, can we use some ideas from these guys? Google, eBay, Amazon, Hilton, Uber, Toyota. Maybe we can steal some ideas from these. I have to think something up because I've got a problem. Okay. I got a report from my managers. What's going on here? Only 40% of all clients actually start their own business. And maybe that's no bad thing, because startup isn't for everyone. And sometimes the right answer is to say, don't set up now. Take your time. 15% of our potential clients drop off after just one meeting. Maybe that's no bad thing. 1 in 6 meetings is cancelled on the day by the client, and they don't even always tell us. And it takes 10 days to book a meeting to see an advisor. That's way too long. And some clients take many months. And we don't always follow up appointments. We're not chasing the client. So, my little notes, there's a moral issue. Should we filter down? Should we stop people? How much is that costing, all those cancelled appointments? And it's too slow. Here's some data. The likelihood of starting a business changes the more meetings you have with an advisor. So if you have one meeting, chances of setting up is about 13%. If you have another meeting, your chances of setting up increase. Up to about the 4th meeting, there are workshops as well as one-to-one. But when you're actually getting 7, 8, 9, 10 meetings, actually the chances of you setting up a business are starting to drop. You're a procrastinator, risk averse. So maybe there's a sweet spot. Why am I giving so many appointments to people who are going nowhere? The most appointments we ever gave was a guy called George. 29 appointments he had from us. He did set up his business, and he's a good guy, is George, but that's costing a lot of money. And sadly, we have to think more commercially. How am I doing? 2 minutes. Again, how long does it take to set up in business? About 10 weeks to set up in business. If you're not set up after 10 weeks, forget it. And again, the cost of helping people. €3,000, a third of my money is wasted on people who never go anywhere. Again, let's have a look at my performance. So, what's good? If we help someone, they're more likely to survive than if we didn't. So after 3 years, 71% of our businesses are there. If we didn't help them, only few of them would be there. So it's making a difference. And again, our businesses are creating jobs. After a few years, those businesses are creating 1.8 jobs, and our superstars are creating 7 jobs. And these are people who are disadvantaged, unemployed, and had a hard time at life. And they're creating jobs for themselves and other people. And these people have had disadvantage. So it shows that even the poorest, the most deprived people have a great contribution to make to society. Thinking time, thinker time. I'm almost there. We've gone to the cloud. Eventbrite, everyone has to book in. Text messages. We have to book online for appointments. And we use a thing called a 5-second survey. Hold on. Anna Smith just scored today's advisory 3 stars. So we're getting immediate feedback. And again, we're using our website and we're using the cloud, much more. Back office. I won't go through this, I haven't got time, but they have a personalized account, a target plan, all done automatically. So there's no touch of human hand. Again, people are transacting with us through smartphones, email, and so on. So Ringo's just booked a meeting with me. I'm almost there. And we have to barcode things in and progress plan. Sorry, I may run out.
No,
I may
go
a little over. We're having to look at analytics. I'm having sadly to measure the performance of advisors, the performance of staff, how quickly people are progressing, who I have to rank the good. This is test data, don't worry about this. So Peter is doing really well. I have to measure my delivery funnel for those clients progressing through and how quickly they progress. Again, this is all done automatically through the web, through our CRM systems, very little touch by human hand. Again, we have to progress and manage the client. Again, this is all done automatically, again, through the systems that we use. We're having to track if people turn up for appointments and their attendance rates, and if they're not turning up, they have to go because it's rationed. And again, with ERDF, I have to track missing information. So this is the kind of data systems that we're developing to try and deliver within £500. Did it work? Appointments have gone up, attendance rates is up to 94%, saving me money. Advisor capacity is up to 85%, better utilisation. And at the end, the back office has saved us a fair bit of money, but it's really behaviour and attitude that's changed in people's mind. The technology actually did nothing, but the change in thinking made all the difference. And thank you.
Welcome. In the middle, I'll just ask you a question. Thank you for that, Jim. Thank you for coming all the way from Liverpool. So if you had one, as I can see, you're very data focused and very metrics focused.
Yes.
If you had one data that would really change the perspective of helping entrepreneurs, what would that be? Which data has been the key indicator for you?
I think it's the frequency in which people engage with us. They want an appointment tomorrow, next week, and the urgency and the motivation. And people who are phoning us up and saying, I want to help, I want help, they're the guys that are motivated. If people say, well, I'll phone you in a week, we have to get those motivated people.
So find those metrics early on and
Yes.
help those people that are keen to get our integration.
That's exactly
Okay,
it.
thank you very much. You'll have the possibility to talk to Jim later on as well.
Thank you.
So before we'll go to break, we're going to listen to a presentation called "To Swim Against the Stream." It's with Amina Jaman, a researcher at social medicine and global health at Lund University, and Benny Carlson, professor in history of economics at Lund University as well. So we'll talk about entrepreneurship and integration in Somali. So I think the mics are on, and the presentation is soon on. So let's give them a big hand of applause before they even get up to the stage. I forgot, sorry. Thank you for coming. Polka is this. Yeah, you got one as well. So you'll probably have to share one of them. Okay, thank you.
Okay, am I on air? Yes. Well, I'm going to tell you a bit about a little more modest project than the one we heard about just now, but it has had quite many complications, and as I understood it from the invitation here, we were going to talk a bit about the kind of complications you can get into when you pursue a project like this. I'm Benny, and you can guess. Well, you can guess who is who here, I guess. I'm evaluator of the project and also involved in some research surrounding the project and Somalis in general in Malmö and in Sweden. So among other things, I've written this report on Somalis in Malmö. It's a series of reports on Somalis in 7 different cities in Europe. Some background first. Here's a picture of employment among Somalis in Malmö, and it's a rather static picture. It's hovering around 20% year in and out, and it's been so even if you go further back in time. In Sweden, in all, it's a bit higher, hovering around 25%. The difference between Malmö and Sweden is that the difference in employment between men and women is much smaller in Malmö than in the rest of the country. entrepreneurship, this is a very gloomy picture. These are the percentages of people in working age. And if you take the absolute figures here, there have been no female entrepreneurs at all, or self-employed, we can call them. At the peak here was in 2006, where the absolute number of male Somali entrepreneurs, there were 12 of them, and in 2012 there were only 8 left. So this is a rather disastrous picture when you have 0.5% of a group in working age as being self-employed. And if you go to other countries, as we have in Britain and in the United States, it's quite different. A lot of Somalis have moved from Sweden, as you probably know, to start businesses in the UK. And in the United States, they have a self-employment figure which is a little higher than the total population, a bit more than 5%. So you can say it's tenfold as impressive as much of entrepreneurship in the United States among Somalis as it is in Sweden. And it's not only the for-profit businesses that are so much more vibrant in United States and Britain. It's also all the non-profit organizations which comes along with it, and which takes care of a lot of the problems that new arrivals have in a country. And in Sweden this hasn't happened. The businesses haven't grown, and the non-profits haven't grown at all, organically from below. And to try to compensate for this, some authorities in the Skåne region came up with this idea that we should try to launch an organization like those non-profits in the United States and Britain. And then we will try to hand it over to the Somali community when it's working. And so here are the stakeholders. It's a European Social Fund project. So, and the Herbert Felix Institute here is the organization that owns the project. And then there are 7 authorities behind it, as you can see here. And then in some way you have to, of course, to involve the community itself, which in 2012 was about 15 Somali associations. There are a few more now, I think. We can say about the budget it's about 1.9 million crowns a year, and it's a 2-year project. And it's not only 7 authorities, there has also been 7 employees at the most of them part-time. And all have been Somalis except the first project leaders and except for myself. There were some problems, of course, at the outset. The main problem might be that you challenge the mainstream ideology, which is very dominant in Sweden. According to this ideology, everyone, professor or an illiterate, they're supposed to be established after 2 years and then could be able to be treated equally, which of course it's quite impossible. There were also these problems how to coordinate all these 7 authorities with their different missions and perspectives and interests. And to find out the needs of the target group. Of course, there had been some focus groups and other ways of trying to figure out the needs before the project was launched. But the big problem was how to anchor the project in these Somali organizations. There are 3 kinds of services provided at this center: business advice, information on society and health, and job search meetings. And in each area we cooperate with other organizations and authorities. The guy who designed the center, he anticipated a number of risks that there would be problems with anchoring this project in the target group, in the Somali community, problems in if some stakeholder would drop out, what will happen to the funding. If the location of the center is not right, will we have an influx of visitors, which keeps the center alive? Can we generate our own income to make this center viable in the long term? How will the Somali associations, what will I think of this center? Will they think that it's a competitor rather than someone who can help you do things that you can't do yourself? And there was a risk of the whole thing being delayed, the launch of it. And this was a very well thought analysis, because all these problems occurred. So the anchoring from the beginning, it failed almost completely. This made that the city of Malmö, which they were the center of the headquarters of the center was based. The city of Malmö started hesitating about it, because they wanted to keep on good terms, of course, with the Somali associations. And when Malmö didn't help out very much with finding the right premises, we ended up in a place which were the good premises, but far away from the target group, so few visitors. The European Social Fund cut down on parts of the application, so those activities that would be supposed to generate income in the future, we didn't get the money for those activities. And Somali associations really thought of this center as a kind of competitor at the beginning, and the project launch was delayed. So everything, all the fears were realized. So there was a really vicious circle, mainly this problem with anchoring, and how would you get a dialogue going to anchor it when it had been launched, and so we had in the steering committee there was talking for 1 year on how we're going to do this with all these associations, and finally, and this made also, as I said before, the city of Malmö hesitate, and these problems with the associations and with the city of Malmö had the result that the project leaders were consumed one after another. So first year there were 3 project leaders, and of course this created a lack of continuity and an uncertainty within the organization, and so we had this vicious circle. But the problem was really, there was a culmination after 1 year when all the Somali associations went together. The center was their main enemy in Malmö, so they attacked it with a protest letter. And then there was, of course, this letter was signed by a couple of people, and then you had someone to start talking to. And when you started a dialogue with these people who had written this letter, after a while everybody said, well, let's put all these problems behind us and let's be constructive and do something. And when this dialogue was going, they formed an umbrella organization, which was a very good thing, because they had been all these associations that hadn't been cooperating very much. Now they could cooperate. They could elect their representatives in the steering committee of the project. There was a new project leader employed, which was very trusted and backed by these associations. This, of course, made the city of Malmö to turn around 180 degrees, and also so start to look for new premises which could be better. So it took almost 2 years to get the thing really going, and then of course the project time was over. But just before I give the word to Amina, I will just say a few words about the business advisor strategies, because we have had 2 business advisors after each other. So the first one had this strategy that you should be more narrow. You should really find those who were experienced and were really motivated and well prepared and could be self-propelled and so forth. The second advisor had a more broad and soft touch, that you have to. There are so many. The people are coming in and they have their ideas, and there are so many barriers, and try to work in a more holistic way. And as evaluator, I thought that they both had a good point, because those who started a business, they had been in the country for 30 years or something, and they had been working for, had been employed in childcare and so forth. So they had a very a lot of experiences, but still there was a lot of barriers that had to be removed in different ways before they could launch their enterprises. And in all, 5 enterprises were started, so we didn't reach our 8 enterprises. But anyway, there are several who are very close to start up. And the center has also now gotten some money to continue for 1 year, and it has moved into the labor market activities of the city of Malmö. They have a huge complex there, and the Somali Center has moved into this complex. And so now the problem is, how are we going to keep our identity as a special Somali Information and Business Center, and at the same time being a gateway into the labor market activities of the city. Okay?
Can you hear me? Okay. As you've heard, my name is Amina, and I'm the project leader for Somali Information Business Center. I started, or I came in September, so I'm there for just a month or so. But previously, I worked as a coordinator. I came in when there was a lot of disputes between the center and the Somali community. I'm an ethnic Somali, but I had never worked with integration. My field is health communication to be specific, and IT-based health communication. And you wonder, what has that got to do with integration? But I've worked a lot with, and my research is based on participation in strategic communities and underserved, if you like, communities. By underserved communities, you're probably thinking ethnic minorities, but within healthcare centers, you have the nurses and the assistant nurses. So in cases of implementing a new system, and we're talking about IT system, then the nurses and the assistant nurses are normally underserved. They're the communities that are not normally represented in the decision making. So coming in with that, I was approached by the community and some of the people who were working in the project, and were asking me if I would like to work with this center. And I work a lot with people-centered and need-based approaches and methodologies. So my first question when I came in was to ask, do we even need such a center? Why do we have such a center? And we went, I conducted a pilot study, consulting with the community, with the different groups. We have those are the people who own businesses already established in Malmö. We asked them, do you really need this center? What should it be for? How can it help you? What kind of services can it provide that you wouldn't get it from the society? Because we do have other organizations that do provide those help. Why just specific for Somalis? And there was a unanimous kind of agreement that the center is needed. It's just that they were disagreeing with the leadership. And I won't go into that. Benny has scriven, and there's been a lot of it written. And for me, the conflict was more of leadership question. With any community, you cannot have a project for a community if you don't involve the community itself. There were Somalis who were working within the community, but they did not have a say in the leadership. They were not let into the power sharing communities. And I would like to throw this question to all of you who are working with minorities. How many of you have people from those groups, the ones who are working in Biskop's Garden, how many of you have them in decision-making processes, not as participants? So that's the question I would like to throw back. So what we do now is we actually seek. We go out. Somebody, I think Diane was the one who was who mentioned yesterday that somebody called him because and asked him about the cable, and that happens to me. I can go to a wedding or a funeral, and people would approach me and say, you know, you have to contact the migration offices. You know, you should do this and that, because people identify with you. It makes it harder for a person to separate the private life and, but you get that kind of open communication in a different way. Here we have Fozia. She is the one who's the business advisor. I don't have anything to do with that. She goes out to the shops. She actually not only advises but gives practical advice. She texts the person, whoever wants to start a business, and texts them around the town to show them what choices people have, so that they actually meet. And you can't get that kind of services in a normal business advisory. We have, Benny mentioned the health and societal information. We have Zahra here, and Zahra has broken a lot of myths that you cannot discuss sexual health, for example, in a mixed group. We do have a mixed group. We have young youth that are born in 95 and somebody who's born in 49 sitting there and discussing different societal issues. We work a lot with mentoring and role models. So if we need an accountant, if people have questions on accounting, if people have questions on law, we try to get hold of a Somali lawyer or a Somali accountant who could explain so that people understand. They can ask questions and feel free. But it's also good for the community to see that people of their own can get these. You know, most parents, we talk about being doctors. Nobody, I don't think there are any migrant communities that talk about being a social worker, for example. So to get all these kind of people working in different fields and using them as role models. So we have accountants, we have health, people who have started daycare. For example, here we have one of our informants visiting, when we help a person set up a daycare, and he actually visits and talks to them and help them purchase and put them together with different suppliers. So we really don't have much time to discuss, so I think...
I have a question for you. Thank you very much for your presentation. You will also be here. I thought the question you threw back to us is very interesting, and I'm just interested in what happened when you integrated people into the decision making. What happened when you introduced them and brought them on board on the project? What did you realize doing that?
I mean, well, when you speak about need-based, and there's so many people who have said that, whose needs, you know? I'm not saying that I, as a Somali, have better way of interpreting the other people's needs, but at the same time, I think I have a better understanding. I can influence decisions. For example, I mean, our project is about entrepreneurship, but we meet people who come up with different problems. They might want to establish a business, like somebody said here, and somewhere along the line they fall back because something else happens. And I understand that because I have gone through that journey. So, I'm not saying that a person, other person with a different ethnicity will not understand, but it's easier for a person who has walked that distance to understand. And if you want to change policy, you want to change the decisions and make it more need-based, then you need to have people who, and share power with the people who are concerned.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Benny and Amina, for coming here. They've been looking at me, all of the presenters, because they know we have a break that I'm responsible of giving you. So we're going to take a bensträckare, as we say in Swedish. So there will be coffee outside. After the break, we'll listen to our friends from Austria, Irina and Peter from INNEHÅLL, talking about incubators in business growth. So we'll be back here in around 10 minutes. So it's a short bensträckare. So 10:40 back here, okay? Welcome back. How was the fika for our foreign friends? That's called fika, which is one of the most important things in Sweden. That's how you do all of your business and all the new ideas come up. So, welcome back. Next one, I asked Dr. Irene,
please.
Irene Fialka, how I was supposed to pre-frame her presentation. And she said, so INNEHÅLL is a incubator, an academical incubator. It's been existing for 12 years, and it's been a bumpy road. So welcome up, Irene.
Thank you. Do you hear me? Is it on? Is it on? Do you hear me? Okay. So I would like to keep my presentation a bit short so we can discuss afterwards. I hope to be finished in 15 minutes to have some minutes to discuss. So INNEHÅLL has been incorporated in 2002 with the money of the ministry and the city of Vienna, and our stakeholders are the two big universities in Vienna, the University of Vienna and the Vienna University of Technology, plus the business agency of Vienna. And there goes the first complication. Our stakeholders, of course, have different interests in what INNEHÅLL should do exactly. Just recently, one discussion that popped up again was the city of Vienna, of course, wants us to support businesses who incorporate within the borders of the city of Vienna, whereas the universities want us to support all their scientists and students, no matter where they incorporate their business, and it can be outside of the borders of Vienna. So, and we are in the lucky situation amongst us, there is 7 more centers that have been incorporated due to the program, which is called the A+B program, standing for Academia plus Business. And some of them have more complicated stakeholderships, which just increases, and I heard it before already, there is a lot of different interests in what organizations should do and accomplish, and you need to bring it all into one direction that you need to take. So our mission is to motivate academic people, students, professors, assistants, also alumni from universities to incorporate innovative businesses and boost their success. This is what we do, and this is what other academic incubators also do. And one of our entrepreneurs just gave a wonderful, really an awesome presentation on what it is, how to be an entrepreneur, what it is like. And she said, she cited the founder of LinkedIn, Hoffman, who said an entrepreneur is somebody jumping off the cliff and building the airplane on the way down. And this is, I use that because it has been the very same way for us, kind of. We started off, you know, business incubators did exist back then, so there are models out there that you can look at, yet you have to fiddle it into your own scene, into your own environment, and it's building continuously, changing things continuously, and we look completely different than we started out in 2002, and we keep changing over and over again. And I think this is all about being an incubator or being institutions that work with startups. You have to be flexible in a way too. So this is what our mission was, yeah, try to find the people around that have the same direction, that have the same mission. Unfortunately, this is how it looked like in 2002. So it was entire desert. Academic people wouldn't be interested in entrepreneurship at all. There was no entrepreneurship institute, no professorship for entrepreneurship at any of the universities. In Vienna, there was no entrepreneurs, no other startups, no role models that we could look at. There was no money for startups, etc., etc., etc. So this is, and it's coming in. How do we go about? How do we change that? Okay. This is what we thought of as a process that is kind of still the same way. What we do is we look in a phase we call pre-incubation.
we look at business ideas. That's probably everything that you do too. We listen to the founders have a look at the business idea, try to check out the market, try to check out the intellectual property, etc., etc. And then finally, we ask an external board of entrepreneurs, investors, corporates, who we call the Project Advisory Board, PAB, to tell us, is this the business ideas that we should incubate? Then there is the incubation phase, which is 15 to 20 months, 18 to 24 months, sorry, and we incubate about 15 to 20 startups over that longer period of time, and we accompany them in any kind of questions that you have. And then afterwards, the alumni we still are able to take care of, and that has changed over the time. Initially, we were only allowed to incubate them, and then after 1.5 years, they should be all set, which of course is not the case. So they changed the program in a way that now we are allowed to work to help our alumni as soon as they have left the incubator. So what did we do? We started, building up our wings and tried to fly, and we're still building them. And we really looked at many different models. We went to every place that is known to be an entrepreneurial. We've been Silicon Valley, Austin. We've been to the East Coast, Boston, Research Triangle Park. We've looked at Munich, at Berlin, at Cambridge, Oxford, London, etc., etc., and tried to see what the people do out there. And what we started, what we just recently did, and this is only, coming to now, here and now, what we recently introduced is the so-called Startup Camp, which is an acceleration program within the incubation program. And we do it in the first 3 months of the incubation program, where we work with our startups according to the lean startup method. And funnily enough, we tried to do that a couple of years ago when the book was published, and it was not accepted. Our startups just wouldn't like to be pushed like that. They wouldn't like to go out to a customer and ask a customer about her needs. They wanted to be, have something ready to show the customer, to ask, is this what you want? And not, what do you need? And now somehow we have the feeling it changed. People have, almost every entrepreneur probably has read the book. They saw a lot of role models that it really works like that. And now, 3 years afterwards, obviously they do accept it, and it really worked very well. We are just doing the second round. This year we started the first one in the first half of this year, and the feedback of our entrepreneurs was really excellent. And they said it was such a great help also because they came in with a certain idea of how their business would work. And then during that program, during those 3 months, really hard work, where they also had a lot of, what is important in those courses is the interaction between the entrepreneurs who have another naive point of view on your own business idea, and give that naive feedback, that clear, unbiased feedback is very important, and it really helped them to pivot. In the first round, we had teams that really came in with a certain theory of a business model, and it was the same afterwards, but then they were, yeah, I really know what I'm doing. And I've known it 3 months before already. And they were, standing on a stage really prepared for every kind of question. And there were teams that came in with a certain idea, and then they turned around, and it was always, every day, every week, it was a different business model. And then they were shivering, like trying to present what they finally ended up with. And this is what happens. It can turn out any way. It can be really a great business idea that is solidified by everything they find out, and it can be a business idea that you can pivot and pivot and pivot, and it doesn't work out in the end. Yeah? And then afterwards, we have this demo day where we have the entrepreneurs present to investors, public funding agencies, other entrepreneurs, and then we again decide whether we still go on incubating them. Some of them, in the first round, we had a team that really, it was a biotech regulatory affairs services company. We were initially, we didn't really think, do they really need us? Because we're high-class people, they know what they are doing. Then we decided, no, it would help them to really go through this lean process and go through the client development process. And they ended up with 3 paying customers at the end of 3 months. Further on, they didn't need any more support, so we ended up really further supporting them. And there are businesses that, you know, again, didn't have a business idea left in the end, and others that we keep incubating over our usual another 15 months. So this is what the startup camp looks like. It's, as I said already, is the lean approach, for the first time really systematically implemented in Austria. It includes the co-working space, where the people always have a home base to get back. Of course, the network, we have a mentoring program accompanying the startup camp. We have funding, so those teams, they get 3,000 euro just to pay for whatever is important. Some contracts, some patent applications, some traveling costs to meet a potential client, whatever. In the end, the demo day, which we also feel is really a value to the startups, because what we do is we organize a great bunch of people, and it was over 100 people visiting the demo day for the last time, and then they have the chance for those 15 more months of incubation. So these are the methods that we worked. We started, as we tried to launch the lean method the first time, we kept on working with the business model canvas. So this is something that we kept, and we tried to, you know, customer development in our 2x2 consulting and coaching. But the lean startup method, as it's really been described, we have started only in 2014, and now it's wonderful. Yeah, it also increased the number of startups that want to get into the incubator. So it did have an effect to the outside world. So what we feel is we start gliding, slowly. It also happened that we were ranked, we took part in an international benchmarking study that was done by a research consortium around Chalmers Institute. And they identified 800 academic incubators worldwide and analyzed 300 of them in great detail, and it ended up to be 11th best global academic incubator and 3rd best in Europe. So we really feel that not even now we're doing right. Of course, it's accumulated numbers. It's a lot of startups that we did incubate many years ago that made up for that ranking. So that's also something that tells us, yeah, we are on the right track, and we didn't do a bad job in the early days either. To summarize it, we've over those 12 years, we've incubated 160 startups in all different kinds of areas. So there is a bit of an overhang, so to speak, in the information communication technologies, but we do also have quite a couple of life sciences, so nutrition, medical technology, biotech, pharma, mechatronics, material sciences, everything. Those have applied for a couple of patents and have generated almost 1,000 jobs. They are all, they're 85% academic people who are employed by those businesses. So it's the high quality jobs that we create. And altogether they have raised almost 150 million of private capital. This does not include exit money. It does not include, there's 3 of our startups, of our biotech startups have made a deal with a big pharmaceutical company. One of them, F-Star, really the header of the press release was 1.2 billion deal with Boehringer Ingelheim. So this is not included. And what we also have is a great public funding scene for startups that we also use, of course. So our startups were able to raise 90 million euro of public funding, mostly national and regional, very little European money because it's, and we heard it, it's very complicated and it's an overload for a startup. So this is the startups. It's really about everything. It's from growing truffles, sensors, apps, medical technology, therapies, everything, you name it. And I'm ready for some questions.
Thank you, Irie. I'm not taking the candies, I'm just forgetting about them. But now I remember, so this is some Swedish candy for you.
Thank you very much.
So I have a question for you, and people here can ask questions later on as well for the panel. But so going from a business model canvas, that's like having a business model canvas is one thing, but growing a business and having revenues is another thing. Yep. So what has been the biggest challenge for you in helping the entrepreneurs to pursue and generate our income on that?
The biggest challenge was really the culture, the mindset. Yeah? We are an academic incubator. Good luck, we don't only do, it's about 50% that really are businesses that are based on research results coming directly from a research organization. Yeah? The other 50% are students who have a smart business idea, people who have gained some work experience, that are, you know, have a doctoral or master's degree or whatever, and that have, you know, have seen, so to speak, a market and have seen a need. And the tendency is that those from the academia coming with research results, they are much more technology push, whereas those who are coming from the market and who have seen what can customer needs look like, are those that rather come with a market pull business idea. So, and that switch from being driven by, that's my technology, it's the best in the world, and our clients will just pray for it, kind of attitude of a scientist towards an entrepreneur, that's really something that takes time. Yeah? And very often with a business idea you don't have that time for that mindset switch in the brains of the people. So that's the biggest challenge, I think.
We'll have time for one question while we get the presentation here ready. Anyone that has a question for Irene, just pop it. Yeah, we have one, Daniela. So how did you balance the different stakeholders?
We have our own idea about, and we try to defend it all the time. To be honest, there is a lot of discussions about that within our board meetings. And in the end, as the CEO of this company, you need to try to drive your board meetings in a way that in the end, in the protocol, it says what you wanted to say. So it's really, and go to them, meet them as often as you can. It's a people's business, and the more you, very often it's not out of lack of interest or it's out of only being interested in their own mission, so to speak. It's also because they don't understand or they don't know. And if you make it to be a big picture that they do understand, it will slowly work out that there is some kind of alignment. To give you one example, the city of Vienna has a similar has a regional development project within the city borders. It's an area which is basically fields only, nothing there, which is still within the city borders, and they want to develop that part of the city as one of the as a technology park, working, living area. And they've been trying to lure us out into that area of the city for many years. Yeah? And of course, the person who is responsible for that area wants somebody to go there. Yeah? But for an incubator like us, it is not a good thing to be the first there, because we will not be able to develop that area because our startups, they are small, they are tiny, and some of them fail, and et cetera, And what really is the biggest problem is if you ask our entrepreneurs, do they want to go there? You get 100%, my goodness, yeah, never to go there because there's nothing there. There is no restaurants, there is no living, and they would place the entrepreneurs outside into a ghetto, kind of, just to develop that area. And we've been fighting against it for many years. And then in the end, obviously, the person realized, because we really made interviews with startups, we showed them that 100% say no, they don't want to go there. It's too expensive, it's too far away, there is nothing there. They won't get their staff out there. So you're left over as a startup with all those that don't have another choice than to follow you into a remote area. So it's all different problems that you just need to show up at some point. And now, I guess, 1 year ago, I heard, I did understand, I did get it now, some kind of message. So it's really, talking, making people aware is the best thing you can do, I think.
I have another question before we introduce our Albanian friends. How many startups did you incubate your first year?
That's a good question because I was not there. I joined in the second year. I joined in the second year. They took up startups. The first startups they took up was in 2003.
Just a wild guess.
It must have been a handful.
Handful.
A handful, 3, 5, something like that. But the first project advisory meeting that I attended, there was a project from the Institute of Meteorology, and it is one of our most successful startups now. They have a couple hundred staff members. They have subsidiaries in, 25 or so nations. They were bought by Red Bull in 2012, am I right? August 2012. And they were on the Stratosphere Baumgartner Capsule because they did the weather prognosis, weather forecast.
For the jump, right? Yeah.
For the jump, yeah. So everybody has seen it, I guess.
Thank you very much, Irene. Our last presentators are coming all the way from Albania. And this is before we're going to the panel discussion, so you can prepare your questions for the panel discussion. You can upload them on Twitter on the hashtag FVH or on the Loop Me, so we can get the questions for the panel discussion. So all the way from Albania, Mrs. Albana Miftiari and Aida Hamzaj talking about incentives and reforms to grow and help startups and to create smart, sustainable, and growing and innovative startups. So a big round of applause. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello. It was very interesting to hear the previous colleague because they are talking about things that you can touch. We are talking about politics. These are more generic things, but we hope to do something for our country. I'm talking about the central policies, while my colleague Albana is talking about local policies. Albania, if maybe somebody of you don't know, is located in the southeast of Europe. It's a very small country. It's only composed of 3 million of people. After the years 1990, about 1 million people emigrated outside, especially in Greece and also in Italy. We are a very low-income country. Our GDP, if we refer to the data of UN and also to International Monetary Fund, is only $12,000 GDP per capita. And we also have a minimum salary per month of 140 euros. We have a lot of resources in our country, even we have very small surfaces. is only 28,000 of kilometers square, but our policies, even during the 1991s, hasn't been so good. We hope to do something for the future. Yeah, but refer to the doing business 2015, we made I think a very big improvement, because we moved from the 108 place to 68 place. We moved just for 40 slots, and our improvements were mainly focused on starting the business, because the starting a business has become easier during the last year. Also dealing the construction permits, during the 3 or 4 years, everything was interrupted with the construction permits, but according to the municipality of Tirana and their reforms, they made possible to improve this category. Also, registering property has been one of the main points where the government of Albania has been focused. During the year 2013, the number of enterprises has been increased with a number of 12,000 about, if we refer to the previous year. And if we see the data, only about 30% of the active enterprises are run by women. This is a part when the government, also the central and the local government, are focused maybe in the future to increase the number of the women that will run the enterprises. If you see the data, also as I told before, looking that we have a lot of immigrants in Italy and Greece, the most part of the companies, 54%, are foreign enterprises and joined from Italy and Greece. If you refer to geographical spread of active enterprises, we see that the 38% of the enterprises are focused in Tirana, and 12%, so they compose about 50% Tirana and Durrës, that are the two main important cities in our country, and they are located just next to the other. If we refer to spread by economic sector, the most important percentage is in trade and also in services. But we have underdeveloped sectors like agriculture and fishing, and also tourism is not yet developed. Even we see hotels, cafes and restaurants that compose 15% about of the total percentage, but tourism is not yet so developed. We have very small structures, we don't have resorts. We have a lot of problems, especially they are focused in the land problems. After 1991, we have maybe lands with more than one proprietor, because during the communist era, our land was expropriated. And after 1991, our Prime Minister drew a law and they just gave the land to another proprietor, so we face different problems about this. For that reason also we don't have so many big investments, because when an investor comes in our country, the one and the main problem that he faces is the problem of the land. But we are trying to choose that throughout the reforms. If we refer to exports and imports, our exports are very low. We mainly import, and our imports are especially in textile, raw materials, and everything else. I think if we refer to the number of companies and contribution of different sectors, we can see textile and leather, also mines and tourism also, that are the main sectors that compose our company. If we refer to the number of the foreign visitors for the year 2013, it is increased according to the previous years. But however, as I said before, our tourism sector is underdeveloped. Even we have two different seas. We have the Adria and also the Ionian Sea that is next to the Greece. But our infrastructure, as I said, the first problem is the land. The second problem is of infrastructure that is not yet developed. But some of the incentives that we offer to the investments, foreign investments, also local, are the corporate income tax that is reduced from 30%, referring to 1999 to 2008, is reduced from 30 to 10%. Some of the policies that our government has to undertake is to develop a competitive open market, also to try to improve the image of the country as an attractive destination for investment. We are providing with some funds to the SMEs, aiming to enhance the competitiveness. The main reform of our government is drawing of the law for the foreign investments. We are trying to approve. We are trying to approve a draft for strategic investments. We defined which are the priorities for the government for the next years, and these are tourism, energy, infrastructure, also the economic zones. But the law has, because we have some constraint in our budget, also we have some agreements with International Monetary Fund, they cannot permit us to give more incentives, monetary incentives to SMEs because of the budget, because we have to serve the level of the budget that we just have. But we are trying with this law, we are trying to offer permits, licenses, and everything that an investor needs in less time, also without cost. We are trying to cut the procedures. Also, another reform of the government will be the single window, because if we refer to doing business, one of the problems was trading in our borders. That creates a lot of problems. So we are trying to make a project of the single window in the borders. Okay. She wants to talk about the reforms on the local government.
Thank you, Aida. Hello to everyone. My name is Albana Meftari. I work for municipality of Tirana. My work consists on assisting to foreign investors, facilitating their process of investing in Tirana to establish their business, and for the existing investors to facilitate and to promote our strategic projects. This presentation is an overview of strategic projects, SMEs, and investment opportunities in Tirana. According to business climate in Tirana, what has municipality of Tirana done for economic development? In order to improve dialogue, business, institution, community, the policies are designed and incentives are implemented for businesses to establish and maintain a favorable economic climate, employment growth, protection of free competition, and expansion of trade, and policies tax reduction. For municipality of Tirana, the main challenges are to encourage the youth for employment and economic development. What have we done to improve the business climate? During the year 2011-2012, we have performed some reforms like starting a business, dealing with construction permits, paying taxes, protecting investors. When it comes for starting a business, we have done one reform like one-stop shop. One-stop shop, it was opened during the 2012, through which it is possible a reduction of documentation, simplified procedures, reduction of time for application review, reduction of business costs. Dealing with construction permits, we have made possible to issue the building permit in 45 days as compared to around 350 days that was before. So before 2011, construction companies had to wait 1 year to receive this permit, construction permit. Paying taxes, reduction of and elimination of 65 taxes out of 85 that were enforced before. Online payment. According to protecting investors, during the new administrative year, that was 2011, Municipality of Tirana opened a new directory, that is the Directory of Foreign Investment Promotion, which aims to assist foreign investors to establish their business in Tirana. One-stop shop. One-stop shop center provides services and advice to clients, quality and in real time, ensures a more successful business versus a lower cost. With the establishment of this center becomes possible even execute online procedures, which are another bonus of businesses. This approach brings advantages for the business organization and significantly improves the quality of service by this service. Reduction of the documentation, simplifying the procedures, reducing time for application review and reducing costs. According to fiscal policy, what have Municipality of Tirana done for businesses? We have reduced 30% the property tax for families. We have for manufacturing business category decreased by 30%. A tax reduction is also applied to the tax on manufacturing business category by reducing the tax level by 30%. Reduce the rate of tax on hotel accommodation from 5 to 3% of the price. Green provisional tax is cancelled for family and business category. Are excluded from household cleaning fee. The category as follows: retires, veterans, wars, and labor invalids, welfare beneficiaries, the blind, paraplegic, tetraplegic, sick persons. For a more favorable climate for business, Municipality of Tirana has reduced, for those companies who employ 50 employees, they won't pay for 4 years the local taxes. According to the infrastructure companies that operate on infrastructure, they won't pay 30% of tax on impact on infrastructure, on construction permits for all the subject of construction employment over 75 employees taken from the list of unemployed by the employment office in Tirana. Sorry.
You have 30 seconds.
No. What can I do for 30
I don't know. You just share your key learnings.
Program,
we have to proceed. Yes.
Employment program is a challenge of Tirana municipality, especially for youths. We have prepared the master plan for investors. We have different strategic projects that will make our city more attractive for investors. Is Tirana Industrial Business Park, Northern Boulevard and Rehabilitation of Tirana and the River project. It's also a Tirana light rail transport tram, multimodal passenger terminal, and Tirana Urban Traffic Control Center, which is completed. And the other are ongoing projects for these 2 forthcoming years. Automatization of urban transports and many other projects.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
There was a lot of projects. Thank you. You can stay because we're going to introduce our keynote speakers for a panel discussion. So we're going to need chairs on the table. And so I will welcome back Irene. I will welcome back Anna. I will welcome back Torbjörn. I will welcome back Benny. Let's see, Albana is already here. And I will also welcome back Anhild. All the way from Skåne. As exactly, but everyone knows Skåne is far away. Hon tyckte du skulle vara med. Vi får inte plats med alla.
Okay, I have.
You have a microphone? Yeah.
Great. So if I fall, I fall. Whatever. Whatever happens is the only thing that could happen, right? Welcome back.
Thank you.
A big round of applause, right? We've heard everything from law to Skåne, I'm just to like startup scene and innovation in Austria and the researchers coming, and also the startup scene and the helping business to grow in UK, and also what the municipality in Tirana has done to incentivize entrepreneurs. What would you say? And I'll start with you, Irene, because you have the microphone. What has been your key learning regarding entrepreneurship during your process in advance to coming here?
To summarize it, the key learning was that it is the most important thing to really look at the entire environment that needs to be developed. It does not only help entrepreneurs to develop by themselves. What we need to work on, and still are working on and still need to work on, is all those 150 million euro of private capital is mostly from abroad. So we don't have investor scene in Austria, which means that in particular early stage investment is tradition. It does not have a tradition in Austria. And if you don't have that money regionally, it means that it just gets more difficult for even the good startups to reach out for money. So you just have to go more distance in order to be as successful as if you were in Silicon Valley, for instance. That means, on the other hand, that the people, the real good ones, they realize that very early, and then they go like the water. They go the path with the least barriers, which means you lose them and they wander off to Silicon Valley or other places where the community is more advanced. So we are not only working on entrepreneurs, we are working on early stage investment, and you cannot copy anything from Silicon Valley, or you look at Berlin or whatever. You have to fit it into your environment and co-develop the environment along. One example I showed you before. Lean
is a very interesting, very easy to be done methodology that can be used for by entrepreneurs and to develop entrepreneurs. But still, if the people don't accept it and don't work along with it, you cannot do anything as an incubator. So you need to co-develop the culture, and cultural change takes time. Yeah, copying is impossible. You have to look at different methods and try things, just like our startups, I guess. Try things and retry again, maybe years later, or change a bit and fiddle it into your environment and see what you can learn from others, but still develop your own environment. You have to do it yourself.
Yeah, as we talked about, I was talking about Sweden and Stockholm and Gothenburg and the differences in the ecosystems of entrepreneurs, and we talked about the challenges of trying to copy something. Oh, this is working here. Yeah. I was Jim. You also have a microphone.
Can I add something? Because yes. What we did in the early days, we invited investors from Silicon Valley, for instance, or Boston area. And it was this, wow, awesome, everybody in awe, open mouths. But after that workshop, nothing was left. And I think it's that cultural difference that we can use in Europe, because we know each other much better than United States people would understand our culture. So I think we have to use our culture as an asset rather than saying it's a challenge.
Thank you. Jim has a microphone. Is it working?
It is, yes.
Yeah, nice. So you're coming from a post-industrial area of Britain. So how would you say, because the startup scene is usually focused on tech startups and scalable products. So how would you say that has, if you look at rural Liverpool and Manchester, so what has been the biggest challenge of helping post-industrialistic cities to get it started with startups?
I think within the UK, many people have had a traditional job for 10, 15, 20 years, and for the first time in their lives, they have to look after themselves because the jobs are not available. But I think more positively, everyone here can be an entrepreneur, because everyone here has a business idea of some sort, and it's about finding that idea in themselves. And I suppose I am an entrepreneur myself, and I became an entrepreneur not really by choice, but circumstance. And I didn't like my boss, I had arguments, and I said, right, I'm doing it. And I think it's about letting go of that fear. And once you realise that fear is gone, and you can say, well, what have I got to lose? And I had nothing to lose. I had nothing. And it's true of our people as well. So I think it's there for everyone.
So it's a people's business anyways, depending also. I would, Anhild, so you work with schools and helping people. Yes. So what would you say, what would be the key asset of helping our children to get out and be more risk-taking as I am right now? Well, I'm not that risk-taking. I'm like 10 centimeters away.
Well, you're very close to the edge. So I would say you're a risk-taker. Not even.
No.
I would say it's to develop a mindset, another mindset, the one you were speaking about, in cooperation with the community and making them believe in their own ideas and wanting to develop their ideas, not listening too much to the grown-ups when they say, well, that's not possible. I think that's the most important thing, yes.
So going from there to law, because do whatever you want and you can be whatever. No, you can't. There has to be stakeholder. So what would you say has been the biggest challenge of helping these ambitious people that want to create to also do something that is not only legally but also that will you were talking about the working plan.
Yeah.
Because that's a term of agreement that actually helps them to be more functioning.
Exactly. And I think and this is something that goes for everyone and not just for entrepreneurs. I think you have to learn how to see law as a tool for something rather than a system that you need to adhere to. If you see law and the regulations and the legal system as an infrastructure for creating, an infrastructure for including, an infrastructure for building, then you will have the right approach to law and you will be able to use it as a constructive tool rather than threshold for things. And that's something I think we've worked hard on trying to establish with our clients. And that's something we work hard in our master's education that we have, where we mix law students, engineering students, business students, because we try to make them understand that the legal system is a tool and you just have to know how to use it. And you have to stop being afraid of it. And when you start doing that, I think you have the right capacity that you need in order to become an effective entrepreneur. Because you can't really manage these waters without knowing, like you say, the legal system.
So how would you say, how could we even make it easier to understand? Like, if there was one thing we could do to help entrepreneurs out in these areas, to help them to understand the law, because I'm an entrepreneur myself, it's not that easy. And I had a conversation with my lawyer on my new business, how we kind of form, and he has like 6 different types, and you can have a for-profit, non-profit, and you can have a, so it's like, it's frustrating. So how could you, if you had one gift to give to the project that are going for 1 more year, what could they do to make it easier to understand the law? Is there an initiative or a project that you could see could happen?
I would say that our attempt to build a social incubator is one of these things. Because that is a setting where you could go in and ask the questions, the specific questions that you need to ask, but also a setting where you can find a support, but also an understanding for how the legal system works. I think it's difficult to make sure that law firms take this sort of responsibility. I think that the university has to be one of those actors, and many of your organizations has to be those actors as well. And I would also say we can't continue relying on official authorities, myndigheter. They do a lot of wonderful things, and they are highly educational in many areas.
Hi Tillväxtverket.
Hi Tillväxtverket.
Hi Björn.
But Skatteverket, Bolagsverket, they can't fix everything. And other organizations and the university and other law firms can't keep relying on them to be the defenders of these types of questions. We need organizations that will do this for free. We need to make the law more accessible.
Thank you, Anna. And we have a question from the Loopy, right? So it's for Albana, and it's how does talking about government and governmental structures, how does the government support the SME increase, the small and medium enterprises increase?
I have that font.
Can you see? She's behind me. I can't move this even more. So we'll do it like that.
Thank you. For supporting SMEs in Tirana, municipality of Tirana has conducted 3 financial instruments. One is the guarantee of fund, which is an agreement between municipality of Tirana and commercial bank, giving loans to SMEs with a very favorable low interest. This is one financial instrument, and the other is an agreement with Norway Fund, an organization of America, AAFD. It's an agreement between banks to give loans with a low interest to these SMEs. Also, we have grants of 2,500 euros for those SMEs that have the best business plans. If they have the best business plans, we have a competition, for them. They will win, they will get this grant. So there are many ways for
stimulating
supporting, and municipality of Tirana have different incentives to encourage the entrepreneurial spirit of
So what are you missing? What is lacking right now? If you have one wish, if the entire Albanian government was in front of you, if you have one wish, what would you wish for to happen so it could grow even more?
Just to become EU member.
Okay. Thank you. that would probably Yes. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
So we have
the wrong people here.
we have our 2 researchers with us. What would you say has been from listening to this day, Torbjörn, these 2 days? What has been your key learning, and what would you say has been the most important fundamental factor to succeed in this? in creating more entrepreneurship?
Maybe the realization that change takes time, and you have to probably have a pre-phase to get the organization to grow enough to start working day one, and not start working full force in month 9 or month 12. And probably need also after phase, after project, to link the project to the normal business, so it doesn't just fall apart when the project fund ends.
We talked, I discussed it with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. We talked about visions, and organizations and companies have a vision, and you rarely know exactly what your vision is going to build up to, because that's a learning process. So not going into a project maybe and expecting that after 3 months everything should be set up and working smoothly, that maybe it takes 2 years to just learn what the people need or the entrepreneurs need. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Benny, what is your insight from now? What are you thinking? Tell us what you're thinking. The professor, I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, in general, there's been much talk about flexibility here, and I think that's really what we need, especially in Sweden, because we're so well organized, and everything's going to take 1 year or 2 years. You have the establishment phase, 2 years for everybody, regardless of background, and then you have these projects, 2 years or 3 years, and I think that everything should be much more flexible according to need. So maybe someone needs an establishment phase for 2 months, and someone needs it for 10 years, and maybe this project should be cut down after 2 months because it's not, you can see from the beginning it's not working, and another project maybe which has been well prepared and has been growing from below, and you can say, will we fund this for 10 years or something? That we think that there's a need for it for that long time. So I think this kind of flexibility. And
it's the same insight that from entrepreneurial learning that we was talking about yesterday a lot. You don't assume that someone has learned entrepreneurial learning after 3 months. Maybe it takes 10 years. You have to start in school. I don't know, like really putting the foundation so someone can come out and be entrepreneurial. Yes?
I think we also need to stop trying to invent the wheel every time. We have to learn from each other. We have so many initiatives from so many organizations, and today is just an evidence of that. And I think we need to do a better job at understanding what everyone else does, and a better job at mapping the different initiatives in the arenas that we're working. Because we keep putting efforts, especially from academia, into the same wheel inventings again and again. And I think we need to be better at that.
Thank you. Maybe something you can put a post-it on. I won't help with mapping all of the initiatives. So do we have any questions from the audience? Any thoughts you have? Yes?
I was impressed by one of
You can please stand up so everyone can see you.
I must say I was impressed by one of the figures you presented from Albania, where you told us that you had 27.8% of the companies were led by women. I just looked it up on the internet that in Sweden in 2012 it was 23%.
I was applauding the 27%.
Can I add another figure? Yeah, if it gets higher up in education as a basis, so we are an academic incubator, it gets less. Yeah, yeah, less women. We have at about 12-13% something currently, and it's real pain. Congratulations.
I can add there that when it's Somali entrepreneurship, for example, in the United States and Britain, the women are in majority, in vast majority in many cases, and in Sweden they are a small minority. And even there's so much support for women in Sweden with childcare and so forth. And at the same time, women in the United States, where they don't have this free childcare and so forth, they are able to have small businesses, a lot of small businesses, but they're not able to do it in Sweden.
So without having maybe some evidence on it, so what would you say, just from your hunch, what's the difference? What is it that they're doing different from us?
Well, I think it's a problem of Swedish, the high thresholds to get into entrepreneurship, and the Swedish besserwisser mentality. What you business idea is going to be, because it's very natural for people coming from other countries to want to re-establish something they recognize, to use their social capital, their network, and start something. But in Sweden, you have to go, well, you have to take 1 year education to start this. You want to sell some clothes in a shop. Start out with 1 year of education to do it. And then you have to have these fancy premises. And then, of course, you have to have a big loan from the bank to afford to these premises and so forth. And so you build up something that people can't even get in. I think you should allow things to grow more from below and let people use their original ideas. And then when they have gotten over this small threshold, then support them by coaches and mentors and incubators or whatever to be able to grow and develop.
I'm also thinking a lot of these starta eget kurser, start your own business courses can also be like, oh, I have to go to one of those to start my I'm talking to my mom. She's been running companies for a long time, and she told me that I have to go to the starta eget kurs. I was like, you had 4 companies already before. Why would you need that? But it's her mindset that she's heard that she has to go to that. I would even challenge you to have a 24-hour start your own business camp. So during 24 hours, you'll start a company, and you'll have legal advice, or you have people helping you with your business model, just to take down the threshold. It's not a big deal. It's complicated in some advance, but also just try it. And you were talking to Julia. You were helping both the 16-year-old to the 50-year-old. What you talked about, just try your idea and get started with it. Any more questions from the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had your microphone. You've been sitting with that.
We just said that no problem. We can fix that for you. I have a small question for you, Anna. What was the hardest thing?
I would say the most difficult thing was to establish some sort of faith and trust in our clients. Because they walked in, and I think that they expected, again, the white middle-aged man, and they got the 3 of us. And I think that a lot of them turned to, I think you won from start, because he was at least the white male. But then all of a sudden they realized, well, it's the noisy girl, apparently, that's taking care of them. So I think that we had to work on that. But again, I'm not sure, though, that was the hardest from our perspective, because I think we had a natural authority, and I think we created quickly a sense of responsibility for the situation, and I think we spoke to them in a way that they understood. Otherwise, doing this, giving this type of complex legal advice, that has been a huge challenge, and getting the university to feel comfortable with having us running around doing our own thing. That has also been quite a challenge. But oh my God, it's been rewarding.
Thank you. We have the last question before we start wrapping up and taking our grab-to-go lunches, and it's for Torbjörn. Okay. Believe it or not, we have your microphone over there. So it's a question from the Loop Me, and it's Torbjörn. No pressure, man, but was Företagsamma Västra Hisingen a success?
Yes. Of course.
And fundings 1 more year. And I would say so. Of course. Why? And yeah.
It's usually quite difficult to say what kind of things, what kind of activities that affects a specific project. A lot of things happen around the project, in the community, a lot of efforts from the tax revenue offices, from Bolagsverket, different agencies. So you can't really be sure that the efforts from the project that has created this development, these new companies, these new entrepreneurs. But we can see in our research some indication of that the activities done in the project has been positive, and it's talked about the kids in schools, talked about inspiration, the teachers talk about more collaboration between the students. So we see indications of positive things, but it's difficult to say specifically that's because of the project.
Thank you very much. I will also invite you now to seek someone that you haven't talked to yet, and just two and two share. What are you taking away from these 2 days? What is your key learning, key insight? And just have a couple of minutes for that. We'll take around 5 minutes. So look for someone that you haven't talked to yet and introduce yourself. And what are you taking away from these 2 days?
Can I join?
This question, it was even for us?
No, I don't think so. I'm not sure. I just stopped listening when they told to them. So.
Oh, okay.
So I've been the project evaluator for 2 years, so I've followed the project.
Ah, this project. Okay.
I'm an external
analyst,
evaluator.
you're analyst.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a background from the Ministry of Industry in Sweden.
Sweden.
And also as a researcher.
In Gothenburg?
No, I work in Stockholm, but I work across Sweden. A lot of work in Gothenburg, a lot of work in Mälardalen near Stockholm.
Stockholm. Great.
So I evaluate a lot of different projects concerning entrepreneurship, job market, school education.
These conferences are very interesting because each country faces a challenge or has a reality. So for me it's very good to take part in these events just to get to know the best practice from the others. Yes, of course.
Because not only this conference is about mistakes.
Mistakes, yes.
So it's a bit different. We all have challenges, of course.
Of course. Everyone has challenges.
I guess you learn more of challenges.
Challenges. All of us, we face obstacles and we try to identify the solutions.
Yeah. It's very black and white. So what are your hopes about getting part of the European Union for Albania?
It was a joke.
Okay, you don't think so? It's impossible.
So we have received the invitation for being members, so we have to accomplish our reforms, especially in justice, in economy. I think that Albania is a very attractive place for investors because Albania have a natural source to explore. So one of our problem is political disagreement between parties that makes our country not go on ahead. But on the other hand, I'm quite optimistic because we have resources. Our population is the youngest population in Europe. Albanian and Kosovo population are the youngest population, and in Tirana we have 27 universities, so people are becoming more aware to be more professional, to study. So the only problem is the policy. Thank you. I don't know if you have information what is going on in Albania, but
not so much. No.
Thank you, very kind of you.
Swedish candy.
Thank you. It's my second time in Sweden. Yes, I have relatives in Malmö, and yeah. Yes, I love. But Gothenburg, it seems interesting city, very interesting. Oh, really? Aida likes more Malmö.
More than Gothenburg.
Oh.
I think I like it more than Stockholm as well. But it's a little bit too small. Stockholm is, I really
Yeah.
love Stockholm.
Really? I will go tomorrow in Stockholm. Yeah, we're going. We're staying for 3 days
My
there.
favorite city in Scandinavia is Copenhagen.
Can you suggest any good place? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
That's why I like Malmö, because it's too different, because Malmö is more like Berlin. It's like
Metropole.
underground things are coming up, a lot of entrepreneurship, a lot of new ideas, a lot of creative people there. And Copenhagen is more like Stockholm, but much more chill.
Chill, yes. Very, very chill.
Much better vibe. Stockholm is very like
uptight.
Everyone is moving, uptight.
Really?
I live in Stockholm.
You live in Stockholm.
Stockholm. People are working all the time, and it's like 5 appointments a day.
Yeah, serious.
Copenhagen.
A very dynamic city.
Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Well, Stockholm is interesting. A lot of things are happening here as well. It starts. Oh, my friends. The last popcorn before we split up for today. So who would like to share? What is your key insights or takeouts from these 2 days? Just pop whenever you feel hot. Yeah, of course.
To spin off what I said yesterday during our final popcorn bingo thing, I think it's been a huge taking to see that we have this free range of what we can do. That's not something that's obvious coming from academia or working for state authorities. That type of freedom that I've seen during this conference is quite inspirational. But also, building on that, the fact that that type of freedom and creativity is something that isn't just good for the flexibility of a project, but also for our motivation. Because I think that not half of the things that we've done within Företagsamma Västra Hisingen would have been done without the motivation and dedication of our colleagues. And I think the flexibility and the freedom to operate is something that's essential for that as well. And this is something that builds on the passion and motivation and dedication of hardworking people. And I guess that's, yeah, that's also very good.
Bingo. That goes very much for the pupils in the schools as well, I would say.
Thank you. Any more popcorns? Anyone from the audience? And from Skåne. Yeah. Thank you. Broad perspective.
From Skåne too. My question is about evaluation. When we are setting up targets or goals, and maybe it's also for Tillväxtverket, how about soft goals? We've been discussing about entrepreneurship and business. When is entrepreneurship, when does it become business? And working with minority groups, I liked your presentation about the fallouts, and we have a goal, for example, that we have to double the number of businesses owned by Somalis in Skåne. And the problem is, it's not that we haven't been out, we have been working really hard, but we can't get these quantitative goals. So any ideas on how we will be able to evaluate that and not just have the quantitative? So now instead of doubling up the number of business-owned
I will let that just be a reflection,
Yes,
because
please.
we're
Okay.
closing, but more like a reflection for all of us. So how about the soft goals when we go into this process? And entrepreneurship can be measured in startups, but it can also be measured in like what kind of impact does it make in the social, in the benefits of the people. And I like your graphs as well, Anna, like showing how it actually affects. And you can have a graph on the other way around, how it affects in a positive way of having put up a right structure. Any more popcorns?
Yeah,
Have a popcorn
me. I would would like to reflect on the European working together on a European level. I think what we really need to keep in mind is that as Europe, we're competing together as a region, and we are falling behind. To be honest, if you look at all the statistics, we're falling behind, and that's something we should consider in everything that we do. But also on the European level, so exchanging Albania, Austria, Sweden, etc., UK experience, but also try to build up your strings within the country. Because what I have also heard here, for instance, that still there seems to be not everybody seems to be happy enough about how tight your ties are within. And I feel it very much, because this was also the case when we were built. Yeah, we were seen as a competition within Vienna by others who are doing startup work, and it is really slowly, resolving. So what we also need to prevent, not only looking across Europe, who can help me and who can I learn from, but also look within the country. And sometimes, it's that. The pioneer in your own country, you need to go abroad and come back somehow. How can we prevent that? Yeah, how can I be seen as a pioneer within my own country, and people, accept me as I'm because I don't know. We have the tendency not to believe that one of us can be so good. I don't know why.
So something about think globally, act locally, but also think European, act locally, and
use your own network as good as you can. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So it's time for lunch, and 1 o'clock there's an off-conference program in here, meaning you can meet with the project managers from the different areas from Företagsamma Västra Hisingen to discuss or just continue the conversation. You don't have to go home. There will be an off-conference program until 3 o'clock, so from 1 to 3. Before we go to lunch, which is a grab-and-go rapish thing, I think, outside here, I will just present Torleif Karlsson from the municipality of Västra Hisingen, which I heard is something of like the boss in here. Is that true? But I thought that was Daniela. I don't know. Actually, it's Frida that is the boss. I'm terrified of Frida. Welcome.
Thank you. I would just like to say thank you to all of you, but I would like to turn to our foreign guests first, our guests from UK, from Austria, from Albania, and say that we are very glad and happy that you took your time to come to join us in this conference, shared your experiences with us, and we are looking forward to continue this collaboration with you. It's been great fun. Thank you for that. And furthermore, I would like to turn to my dearest friends in Företagsamma Västra Hisingen, Daniela, for instance, and her co-workers, all the project managers. Please stand up. Yes. They have really earned a big hand. Without you, this conference had never been as successful as it has been, and furthermore, without you, we would never have managed to deal with the Företagsamma Västra Hisingen. I think you are great. The trip wasn't the smooth ride you maybe had wished for and hoped for. It was more like a bumpy road, I would say. But nevertheless, you made it. You really made it. So thank you. Give them one more. Give a big hand. And I would also like to say thank you to Ashkan our moderator. Yes, done a great job. Yes. And last but not least, thank you to all of you. It's been great meeting you. Yes, and now it's lunchtime. Thank you.
Theo.